Hello, my lovelies, and welcome. Happy Wednesday if you're catching me on Wednesday. Happy any day if you are tuning in to me sometime later. My name is Dana. I am your host of the Sacred News and Weather, and I have a channeled message for our collective today. I also have a cold, so I'm going to ask that you bear with me and my snootiness and my puffiness. Probably wouldn't have chosen to come on camera, but I've just given up on the channeled voice messages because you all watch the video. So you get to put up with me and my bags and my creaky voice. And hopefully, I'll be able to get a message through to us for the day. It has been a little while since I've been here. It was a holiday weekend this weekend, and I had some guests in town. So I took the weekend off and I acquired maybe an airplane plague, maybe an East Coast daycare plague, but I'm rocking it. And here we are. So I'm going to just close my eyes here and I'm just going to bring myself back to where I was only a few moments ago in meditation for our collective. And the first thing I want to say is thank you so much for coming in here and watching, for reaching out to me and telling me how much you are receiving from some of these messages. I love hearing it and know that the more I know you're here, and I know I am one of those practitioners who just has a lot of lurkers in the quiet corners of their world who don't like to comment, but I know that you are here and I'm grateful for you as well. But if you do feel called to just put some of your energy into the space by either liking or commenting or even reaching out to me in other ways so that I know you're here and I know you're watching. I will then be able to pick up on your energy more easily so that I can channel messages that might be more meaningful for you. So I wanted to put that out there first. The other thing I want to say is I will begin here momentarily and I will let you know that some messages are for you and some are not. And so if you are receiving this message and nothing feels like it's fitting, I want you to feel free to let it go. Take what's for you, leave the rest behind, and I hope that you find something of use here for us today, for you today. All right. So, coming into the energy of our collective today, the first thing that I saw two distinct pathways. There was a forest and there were two distinct pathways, and there was a night sky. And it seemed as though there was a full moon, even though I know we were just in the dark of the moon. We just had a new moon. But in this thread of energy, there was a full moon, and the full moon was illuminating one pathway, while the other pathway was not necessarily being illuminated by, but seemed to be following the path of a star. And so I sat for a moment and I thought, okay, is this am I meant to choose one pathway or am I meant to explore both? And for me, being who I am, I would naturally be drawn toward that North Star, be drawn toward the star in the sky, which for me, when I see a star in the sky, there's so many myths and stories. Of course, there's the Star of Bethlehem and following the Star of Bethlehem to the baby Jesus, but that's not where I go with it typically. I see that star and I hear expect miracles, follow your dreams, let yourself be guided by the North Star. And so I started down that path, and my guides were like, dip, dip, but not yet. And I was like, okay, all right then. So I recalculating, I redirected myself to the path with the full moon. And now I'll tell you why I personally prefer the path illuminated by the star. And that is, I also hear from the star, I feel from the star, like your dreams are possible, but you're going to have to work for it. And I am someone who has historically really worked hard to make my dreams come true. And so it's sort of innate in me to follow the path where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to work. But y'all know that we are working on something here other than our productivity. And so I was recalculated, redirected toward the path with the moon. And the moon, la luna, we love our moon, we love our feels, we love our emotions, and that's what it signifies to me. And so I'm always more comfortable going down the path of work than I am going down the path of emotions and following our feelings and following our flow into the mystery. And that very much felt like what was necessary before we were going to be directed toward the path with the star. And so that's the first piece that I want to bring forward, which is the path appears illuminated. The path appears before you. It's, we see moonlight. I know when I'm hiking out on a trail or backpacking or camping, when that moon is full in the sky, there's an invitation to go walking at night. There's an invitation to look at what is being illuminated by in shadow by the light of the moon. And so I allowed myself to go and I allowed myself to follow the light of the moon. And what I heard was, I'm going to look at my notes here because there were several pieces that came through, like with very specific phrases that I want to make sure that I'm giving to you. Um, but the feel was, as I was moving down this path that was being illuminated by the moon, that there was still so much in shadow. There was still much sort of like lurking in the shadows, so that even though the path was clear, there was much that was unclear. I'm going to have a cat jump on my lap here. This is Jet Jet. There was still so much unknown. And I was again shown the distinction between the star path, where there would be a much more, the goal would be much more clarified, the goal would be much more clear. Whereas on this lunar pathway, there were going to be a lot more shadows and there was going to be a lot more darkness. Now, I was given two more sort of archetypal images that came along as I was walking down the moon path. The first was Mary Magdalene and her seven layers of the ego that she needed to be released from in order to connect fully with her magic, to connect fully with her soul. So Mary Magdalene came forward, and then Inanna came forward. And these are two divine feminine powerhouses here. The myth of Inanna, and I am by no means an expert. Inanna descends into the underworld and she needs to meet in order to meet and retrieve her twin sister. And as she descends, she has to release seven garments. So seven layers of the ego, seven garments, it's all the same thing. As we're going down this path of Luna, as we're going down this path illuminated by the moon, in the shadow, we are going to find all of the layers of the ego, all of the stuff gunking up our energy centers. If you did that meditation with me last week, each of those seven represent an energy center in the body. They represent a sacrament. They can represent the seven levels, though there are 10 areas of the Judaic tree of life. They can be delineated in seven energetic systems as well. So just being reminded of shedding and of what could be hiding, what could be lurking in the shadows of this pathway that we were being invited down. And so as we were walking, we were shedding layers. There was this image of shedding the clothing like Inanna. There was also the feeling of, so in one of the Mary Magdalene stories, she is raised up into the air by angels 7 times a day. So angels picked her up and held her 7 times a day so that she could release anything that she was holding that kept her from God, kept her from her divinity. And so moving down this path, I was watching us shed the layers. And I heard, in this darkness, we are free to heal everything. In this darkness, we are free to heal everything. And for me, that's really more Inanna than Mary Magdalene, in that Inanna is like, there is like the beauty in the depths. Like the deeper we go, the muckier we go, the more shadowy we go, the more we heal. And she is not afraid to look at anything in those shadows. She is not afraid at what's hiding. She is not afraid. She is ready to embrace it all. And I feel like that was the particular invitation of this pathway. It was, we needed to come into the distinction between shadow and light, and actually delight in the shadow, embrace the shadow, come into the shadow and ask, like, what is here? What lurks here in the icky, sticky darkness that is keeping me from my truth, that is keeping me from my highest unfolding? What is here? And the image that I saw as we were walking with Mary Magdalene, as we were walking with Inanna, I saw the image of the devil card from tarot. And for those of you who are not familiar with tarot, the devil does not mean necessarily a like Christian devil, lord of the underworld. I mean, it can mean that, but that is not my interpretation of it. When I see the devil card, I see all of the things that we're clinging to, all of the parts of our ego, all of those egoic desires that we are clinging to, that have a stronghold on us in this life as we walk our path, that are standing in the way of us loving ourselves, of us being receivers of love, of us being deliverers of love. And so that devil card appeared, the image, I don't know that if it appeared as a card. It's actually the Illuminator tarot deck. There's a really like delightfully handsome devil, and the feeling was he was sort of like coming out of that devil was coming out of the shadows to say like, do you want to stay here with me, little girl? Do you want to come with me and be tempted by me? Or are you ready to let me go? But the thing is, the only the like sorry, I'm gonna be quiet for a moment because I've got something else coming in here around this. So the feeling was the temptation of like, oh, are you gonna come with me, little girl? But it wasn't, the temptation was not the devil himself. The temptation was like, how am I going to describe this? It wasn't like I was being lured into the arms of of toxic masculinity. That was not what was coming through, because when I heard his voice and saw this beautiful image, like, oh, are you going to come with me, little girl? That was not what we were being invited into. We were not being invited into like a toxic relationship or staying in a toxic relationship. It was more like, are you going to come with me to look at your shadows, little girl? Are you ready to look at what's here? And do you want to heal them? Or do you want to wear them like a beautiful man on your arms? So sorry, it took me a little circuitous route there to get to that. But the feeling was like, are you going to be drawn toward me to see what's here? Can you come into the shadows to see what's here for you and then do the healing? Or are you going to be drawn toward me to wear me on your arm and say, look at all of my wounding, look at all of the things that I'm stuck to. I can't possibly heal. Do you see, like, do you see how hot he is? Do you see how handsome he is? I couldn't possibly let him know. Do you see how good this feels? Do you see how good it feels to feel bad? Like, we're being invited, we're being beckoned in to look at our shadows so that we can truly bring love to these shadowy places and stop displaying our wounding or acting on our wounding like we proudly have someone on our arms. I hope that makes sense. And I feel like I'm repeating myself, which sometimes happens when I'm channeling. Okay, I'm going to leave that thread of the devil for a moment and recenter and see if there's anything else that wants to be said about the path of the moon. There is. So I think I touched on this earlier, but you know, the path of the moon is one of great depth of feeling as well. It's the water, the moon pulls on our systems with the tides. It often pulls on the waters of our body, creating emotional experiences for us. And there's just this beautiful invitation here to really allow yourselves to have the flow of emotion, to have all of the complexity of the flow of emotion that happens when we get really willing to look at what's lurking in our shadows for healing. There are going to be big feels here. There's going to be fear, there's going to be grief, there's going to be anguish, there's going to be all of the feels. There's also going to be beautiful love and joy and amazement and marveling at all that's here under the moon. So I want to be clear that it's not all bad. In the shadows, it's not all bad. And there is no bad. If you hang around with me long enough, you know that I believe that we are all everything. And so we have all the good and all the bad within us at all times. And it's just a matter of where we are on the spectrum and how we're choosing to judge ourselves that it comes forward. But the feeling is go with the feeling, allow yourself to be drawn into the shadows, to see what is there, to not turn your back on what's there, but to really love what's there, to really love what's in shadow, which is not always an easy thing to do. In somatics, we talk about inviting that which we find in shadow, whether it's it's in our bodies. If we're finding something, an uncomfortable feeling in our bodies, if you're coming across something uncomfortable on this lunar pathway, what I often suggest is if you're having trouble holding it, if you're having trouble staying with it, imagine a small child, a puppy, or a kitten having those feelings, displaying those feelings of fear, that feeling of hurt, that feeling of even disgust, and allowing your whole, healed, healthy adult parent to come toward that part of you and hold and embrace him, her, it with so much love. The feeling is inviting all of that love that we possibly can into the darkest, ickiest, stickiest parts of ourselves so that they can come into the light and not be driving us anymore. And so that lunar light was tricky because it was illuminating, but it was also creating a great deal of shadow. And it's really in that shadow that our deepest healing occurs. And that's what we are being invited into on this lunar path. I'm hearing again, I heard it at the very beginning of my meditation. I heard holy, 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 sacred, 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 holy, holy, holy. And it was almost like someone was chanting it like a rabbi or a priest. Like there was this element of rocking, holy, 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 sacred, 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 holy, 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 sacred, sacred, sacred. And I'm coming back to that image now. I'm kind of hearing it and I'm feeling the desire to rock. And there's this feeling of, and I may have touched on this before here, it may have been in a different group, but what we're being invited to bring into these shadowy parts is really it's grace. So, I know this is going to take me on a tangent that I'm not going to have time for today, but I've been in my own personal exploration. I've been really looking at how energy work, what I'm doing when I'm offering someone energy work is really like no matter what it looks like, no matter what I'm shown, it's really bringing grace, like the most holy, sacred grace into parts that we have expelled from our bodies, parts of us that we have denied, parts of us that really what they want most is love. But the word that keeps coming is grace. And so, what you're being invited to do as you walk this lunar path is to really bring grace, whatever that means to you. And it may even look like bright white light. It may have a look or an appearance to it. It may have, it may be like you're bringing yourself flowers. Again, I'm seeing, I know I have a cat on my lap, but I'm seeing like little kittens, like you're just going to love up on those shadowy parts. Like you're holding a little kitten and bringing it love. I think the lunar path is complete. I'm going to look at my notes here. I'm just reading. Really allow yourself to embrace those shadowy parts as something beautiful, a beautiful part of you, because that's all it's really looking for, to acknowledge the beauty of your whole self, warts and all. I feel like there's more to say about that devil that came through. And but part of it is because I'm one step closer to consciousness than I am to channeling, and I feel like I didn't hit all of those parts, but I can't remember what I was saying when I was back there. So I'll leave him for now. And we're going to go to this star illuminated path. And I feel like much of what needed to be said was said on the lunar path, but there is something to be said for this star path. Again, the star, when I see the star, I see it as the North Star, our personal North Star, our guiding star. I also see it as a wish fulfilled, a wish come true. And the mantra that I use when this image comes forward is expect miracles. I expect miracles. Expect miracles. I expect miracles. And as we move from Luna, as we move from that place where we've invited our healing and our grace to come into the shadowy parts, we're more free to follow that North Star. We're not being held back. We're not being bound by the shadows. We're not being bound up by our hidden, rejected, exiled parts. And we can follow that North Star. I'm going to take a sip of my tea here. We can follow that North Star into a place where everything is possible, but especially the healing and the feeling of wellness and well being that you thought was never possible. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, following your North Star without the baggage of being weighed down by the shadows, you're now free to follow the star. The interesting thing is, and I'm just hearing this now, is that in tarot, the star comes before the moon, but I was very distinctly shown to send you down the path of the moon first. And again, I feel it's because of where we are as a collective right now. I feel like it's because of where we are as a global collective as well, that there's just a lot of muck hanging around in the shadows that wants to be cleared so that we can feel free, our freest selves, to follow that North Star. But again, and I mentioned this earlier, the concept of work, of like the star is something you have to work toward. But I really want to clarify the kind of work that the star is asking us to do. It is not that star of overproductivity. It's not the work of doing. Sometimes I mean, it's to be fair, sometimes it is about putting one foot in front of the other and taking the next right step and the next right step and the next right step. But it's not about being productive. So if you can imagine the work of the star, the work of achieving your wish come true is about listening and allowing her guiding light. It's listening within and allowing her guiding light to draw you, to magnetize you toward your next right step. And so it doesn't mean that like we are meant to give up all work and lay in our beds and do nothing and wait for the miracle to happen. That's not exactly it. It's more of a surrendering action, like surrendering to the divine, surrendering to your highest self, and then allowing the light to draw you down the path. So it's not a doing. It's a combination of listening, surrendering, and trusting. Remember, I believe in miracles. I expect miracles, and show me the way. Show me the way. And sometimes the way is something that you are meant to do, but sometimes it's a person that is going to come into your life and show you, make you an offer, show you the next thing. Sometimes an experiential thing where you're out on a walk and you just get that moment of clarity. That I just saw the Ace of Swords. So yeah, there's clarity will happen here. Clarity will happen here on this path, on the path of the star. This is the path of clarity. And we're meant to listen inwardly. We're meant to surrender and we're meant to allow the star to guide us and hold the frequency hold the frequency of I expect miracles or just expect miracles. Anything and all things are possible on this path of the star. And it feels really related today. Not for, I mean, some of you are going to feel this in the realm of work and your life's work and your soul's work. But where I'm feeling it most in the collective is really around your personal healing. These two paths feel really potent for any personal healing that you are being invited into, whether it is, I'm seeing like food addictions and alcohol addictions, sex addictions. I'm like addiction is coming forward probably because of that devil imagery, but it's those are physical addictions, are physical manifestations of emotional and ancestral wounding. And so I think that's why that devil is coming forward again. But the personal path of healing feels like it's related to family drama, family trauma, wounding that you carry inside of you, behaviors that you have enacted against others, places that you've hurt other people unconsciously, not really knowing, even if there was some knowingness in your human form in the 3D. Most of the driving forces were in those shadows along your ancestral lines and along your energetic lines. And so by going down the path of the moon, you're looking in for what's there. And by following the star, you're releasing the baggage and you are going toward where you belong. You're headed toward healing. And that Ace of Swords is that clarity. It is like the sword of clarity, the sword of truth, cutting away that which is no longer necessary and then reflecting. If you can imagine the element of metal, it's the element of discernment. So in energy work, I use it to cut away that which is no longer serving us, no longer serving you. But here you're being asked to cut away the baggage, cut away that which doesn't belong, but also to use the metal as a reflection, use the star and the metal to see your true beauty, your true self, your soul self. I'm seeing Inanna again, stripped bare, ready to meet her sister. I'm seeing Mary Magdalene being lifted up by the angels, just being free from the burdens of our ego, letting go of all of the egoic bullshit that we carry so that we can be in our North Star, so that we can be in our most healed, highest versions of ourselves. I'm going to be quiet here again to see if there's anything else that wants to come. I don't know what my cat is doing here. He's burying himself under my armpit. Awesome. There's also, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's this crazy bird sound happening behind me. It's been happening now for a while. It feels like it really wants my attention. I'm going to go out there and say hi. I feel like we're complete. I'm just going to look at my notes, make sure. I think that's what I have. Holy, 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 and sacred, 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 bringing grace to all of your parts today. I love you all. Please, oh please, if you feel called, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. My goal is to continue to do this work 3 times a week. And I'm going to begin offering guided meditations following each offering. That's to come in the future, and or extended versions of the readings for you if you feel like you have landed on a reading that is for you. I'm going to, in the next week or two, begin offering an extended reading for a small fee, just so we can continue this and I can feel really nourished by this work also. And I do. I love you. I'm going to say goodbye. Go forth and have a beautiful, beautiful week. See you on Friday. Bye bye.